But that's a brilliant example of it, because I say, okay, well, I don't like the idea of the appointment of John Bolton, right? He's an old Bush war hawk, and he's talked about, well, we can't get our troops out of Syria, we can't take people out of Afghanistan. When Trump says, yes, I want to do this, he comes back, Trump will say, we're going to take the troops out of Syria, and John Bolton says, whoa, we're not taking them out. And Trump comes back the next day and says, well, yeah, we're taking our troops out of Syria. So these things that at first glance seem like they're a terrible idea, in the end, have all worked out well. Recorded in an otherwise unused bedroom, uploaded from a skeptical corner of the internet, and beamed to you through the information superhighway, this is Honestly What I Think, the Dustin James Show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dustin James Show. I am your host, Dustin James, and today we are going to start off with a little history lesson, because I keep saying it's coming, folks. I keep saying it's happening. The media and the Dems are in a free fall. It looks like the deep state is going to be toast in every eventuality. Now, it may be taking a little bit longer than some of us had hoped, but at the same time, it's happening nonetheless, and I couldn't be happier. And now when I say we're going to have a little history lesson, we are going back to 1948, and we're gonna review the Smith-Mundt Act. Yes, the Smith-Mundt Act. If you can imagine, 1948, we're just off of World War II. The Nazis had obviously effective propaganda campaigns in Germany and throughout Europe, and the American people saw this, defeated it, and said, we don't want that here. So the Smith-Mundt Act was essentially signed into law by President Truman in 1948, and it essentially, we'll go back up to the beginning to talk about the Obama administration, which altered the Smith-Mundt Act in 2012. But essentially, the main goal of the Smith-Mundt Act was to prevent the program material prepared by the United States Information Agency from being distributed within the United States. And essentially what that means is we don't want government propaganda on U.S. soil. We don't think the government should be telling the American citizens how to think, and we believe they can think for themselves via, and also we've got, our own private media and other things like that, which are supposed to be able to do this for the people, report the news objectively, fairly. But it seems in recent years that hasn't been happening, and I can tell you why. We're going to continue on with this just a little bit here as we go back now to 2012, when the meaning of the Smith-Mundt Act was actually essentially gutted. The Obama administration took out the provisions for this propaganda that the United States creates and disseminates throughout the world in other countries, just like, Russia has a state-sponsored news agency. Iran has a state-sponsored news agency. North Korea has a state-sponsored news agency. Well, the United States has one as well. Except they're only supposed to be, or until 2012, they were only allowed to operate in foreign countries. After 2012, when Obama signed the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act, within the National Defense Authorization Act, it basically amended the Smith-Mundt Act, and now that propaganda could be disseminated within the United States. And so Obama essentially legalized propagandizing of the American people in 2012, which was part of an endgame. I've told you in a couple other videos before, these people, they're not dumb. They're really not. They're evil, but they're not dumb. They lay the groundwork for what they're going to do years and years ahead of time, sometimes a whole presidential term ahead of time, for what they're planning on doing down the road. That way, it's much in the same way as President Trump is taking them out. If you read in The Art of War, Sun Tzu, essentially the goal is to prepare the battlefield before the fight even begins, and once you've done that properly and adequately, the battle's won before it's even started. So Obama signs this Smith Modernization Act in 2012, and people freaked out a little bit. They said, oh, you're going to propagandize the American people, but nothing really came of it, because nothing ever did come of it, right? Because they were in control of everything. They had judiciary. They have House and Senate. Well, not at the time. But anyway, it doesn't matter, Democrat or Republican. The deep state has, and up until recently has always had, control of the Congress, the House and Senate. It's not a matter of Democrat or Republican control. It's a matter of similar people with similar ideologies claiming to be on different teams, but really working towards the same end goal. And that is how the United States has been operating for years and years. It's been detrimental, and we're starting, the people with a keen eye saw it 20, 30, 40 years ago. It takes the average person, who's been living through this life of disillusion and media lies and propaganda. It took them a little bit longer to catch on, but now more and more blatantly, they're showing their butts. The media are, as it were. They're reporting stories, and they're getting knocked down within 12 hours or 48 hours. This used to take years, or maybe there was always a suspicion that the media lied about something specifically, but we could never prove it, that sort of thing. Or by the time that it was found out that they had lied to the American people, it had been so long that people had sort of forgotten about it, and so the wounds aren't as fresh and that sort of thing. So people didn't get outraged about it, but finally they're getting their own, and the outrage has come. And actually, sort of like that Virginia governor down there making his own bed part of the Democratic PC alliance of it doesn't matter when or where your transgression was, you'll go down for it. And it remains to be seen if old Ralph there is going to end up resigning in Virginia. But most of the Democrats are calling for his head, and all of the Republicans are calling for his head. And now, the assistant attorney, the vice governor down there in Virginia has got his own problems with a sex scandal now. They can't implode fast enough. This is what I mean. They're losing handily and every day. And so if, we go over and we read a little bit into what was in this bill, and essentially the key part here is that within the National Defense Authorization Act in 2017, 2016, I take that back. It was signed in 2016. It's called the NDAA of 2017. We've got U.S. Senate panel okays funds to fight online propaganda. Well, what does fighting online propaganda mean? Well, it's the taxpayer dollars, now $160 million at least. That's what's reported, right? We don't know. We never know how much money the government's actually spending, right? Because they tuck a lot of it into black budgets, and the Pentagon's missing some $20 trillion. I'm sure some of that money has gone places similar to this. So basically, they're going to take that $160 million and they're going to feed it into American media sources for the next 2 years. $160 million over 2 years to fight fake news, to fight online propaganda. What this amounts to is U.S. taxpayers, or the U.S. government with U.S. taxpayer dollars paying media organizations so that those media organizations can lie to the American people. Here's the thing. These places like BuzzFeed and Vox, and what's the latest one? We got Vice Media, latest digital media operation to undergo layoffs. Vice is cutting 10% staff reduction. It's about 250 people. This comes on the heels of BuzzFeed cutting 15% of its workforce. And Verizon Media Group, that's the HuffPost, and Yahoo, AOL eliminated 800 positions. Newspapers are going under. It's a bloodbath within the kind of traditional lefty circles, be it the media, be it the Democratic Party. And I hope that now we'll start to see the educational pillar, because they've got a stranglehold on education as well. But that's, once again, another completely separate video. But what I'm saying to you is that this this money, this $160 million reported from the National Defense Authorization Act of 2017 was in place for 2 years. Now, if you go from December 2016 to December 2018, that's 2 years. So a month and change ago, this money dried up. There was no more money at all. And coincidentally, we see all these layoffs at these media outlets. Not only that. They're laying these people off, and the money that Obama had set aside is gone for them. And they keep reporting these overtly, false stories that, like I said, get knocked down in 12, 24, 48 hours. BuzzFeed reports, Trump, Cohen lied to Congress. Mueller came out and denied it. In concert with this, what I think is going on here, and why these media companies are getting these stories so blatantly false. One in particular stands out, is CNN reported back in 2017 that Donald Trump Jr. had advanced knowledge of the WikiLeaks emails. They claimed that an email that Donald Trump Donald Trump Jr., that is, sent speaking about the WikiLeaks emails was sent on September 4th. Well, in reality, he received the email on September 14th. So these people had the wrong date. Now, do you think that as silly and as wrong as I think these people are to report a lot of the things that they do you think that was simply an error, that they got the date wrong when they were shown leaked this email, and they said, "Ha, we've got them now"? Because that's what they always do every time they get one of these leaks from within the government or people so closely surrounding the government. They say, yes, this is it. We finally got him. Trump's going down for this one. This is the bombshell to end all bombshells. And it turns out that it's a lie. Well, and I guess it's not solely my theory, but where we're at here is back in the day, Jeff Sessions is Attorney General. Everybody's wondering, what's Jeff Sessions doing? He's not doing anything, right? We've covered this before. Well, if you look here, reported right at CNN in November 2017, Jeff Sessions were investigating 27 leaks of classified information. And I don't think they're just investigate. I mean, it runs deeper than this. The Justice Department is investigating leaks into classified information. It's a sharp increase from recent years, according to Jeff Sessions. Sessions' statements are likely to please President Trump, who has reportedly vented his anger over leaks and expressed his disappointment in Sessions and the Justice Department. You see, everybody was saying, what is he doing? He's not doing anything. Well, he's not going to tell you, right? It even says in the CNN article here, the Justice Department has said little about the leak hunt since then. Sessions said leaking reached epidemic proportions. He's not going to tell you about it because you can't know about it. Once again, it's going to taint the outcome. We covered this before. If most of these people that are doing the leaks are Democrats and you're investigating them and you happen to be a Republican, unless you can prove that there was no political bias in your decision to investigate these people, your investigation, true or not, no matter what conclusion it reaches, especially if it's true, you try to quote unquote crucify these people for leaking to the media, put them in jail or whatever. It's going to be claimed that you're biased, and your allegations may not stick. Not to mention, if it goes before a liberal judge, he might just throw the case out altogether. And another video is how Trump's reforming the judiciary. He's got more judges approved than any other president at this time, and I think he's got even more approved than Obama did in at least one of his full terms. So this whole thing is turning over and churning very, very slowly, but eventually we're getting to the place where all of this information is going to come out. The CNN report finishes up. Earlier this year, reporters told CNN on condition of anonymity that leak hunts are getting very aggressive and the climate of fear surrounding the Russian investigations is off the charts. Listen, I believe this is actually true reporting from CNN. I believe people were terrified, and if they were, then maybe there was a slight lull, because what I think involved in this, like I said, Trump Jr. supposedly receiving an email on September 4th. Well, really, it was September 14th. Lots of people have posited the idea that these were leak traps, okay? You disseminate multiple copies of information throughout the people in government, and you look to see which version of events shows up in the media, and by tracing that back to who you handed out which version of events to, you can understand who's forwarding this information along to their media counterparts. And we have had one prosecution. We'll go over to the New York Times here. An ex-Senate aide charged in leak case where Times reporters' records were seized. Now, this is a Senate Intelligence Committee aide, and he goes by the name of James A. Wolf. He was essentially leaking for years and years and years to New York Times and 3 other unnamed reporters. The article goes on to name Allie Watkins, who was in a relationship with this James, a romantically involved relationship with this James A. Wolf. These, lefty investigators or government employees, just like Strzok and Page over at the FBI, involved in a extramarital. Well, I don't know if Mr. Wolf was married, but engaging in romantic affairs with these people and conducting nefarious actions in order to hinder the Trump campaign and or presidency. So he's leaking out to this Allie Watkins. Basically, he leaked the story that Carter Page the Russians tried to recruit Carter Page. Well, if you listen to Dan Bongino, or if you go I think Carter Page has spoken out. He's not been as vocal as Papadopoulos has been about the sort of chicanery that they were put through. But the Russians didn't try to recruit Carter Page. It was British intelligence and mixed up with the Australians through Five Eyes that were trying to leak the info back into the FBI so that it would appear that the Russians targeted Page so that they would have a reason to get a FISA on him, and thereby they could spy on Donald Trump and the rest of his campaign. And this is one giant web of lies. You can't separate one incident from another. Oh, say they were leaks. You can't say, oh, the FBI started a corrupt investigation. Oh, you can't say Hillary Clinton paid for a Steele dossier. You can't say she covered up Uranium One or Benghazi. This is all one massive ball of thread that's being untangled as we speak, and it's happening very, very slowly, but it's coming. It's coming. You're also going to get more information about Imran Iwan, who was basically ran the servers for the DNC, the email servers. He was spying on just about everybody in Congress. A Pakistani citizen, nonetheless. Pakistani citizen and his entire family were hired by, I believe it was Debbie Wasserman Schultz when she was head at the DNC, to run the email servers, and essentially they had access to the email of at least the Democrats, and I do believe some Republican senators and Congress people, for free reign. Imagine what you could glean if you had access to the lawmakers of the most powerful country in the world's emails. All of them. Carte blanche. Read whatever you want. It's remarkable. And that's the sort of scale of things that we're dealing with, and that's why I do believe this time it's actually happening. These people aren't going to skate on this. It's simply not. It's not in the cards. It can't happen. If it does, we're in terrible shape, and I hate to think of the day, but I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's possible because, firstly, I have utmost faith in Donald Trump. He hasn't done anything that's let me down yet. He put some people in interesting positions. John Bolton, for example, I wasn't too thrilled with this. Back in the day, I was sort of on the what the heck is Sessions doing train, but but that's a brilliant example of it, because I say, okay, well, I don't like the idea of the appointment of John Bolton, right? He's an old Bush war hawk, and he's talked about, well, we can't get our troops out of Syria. We can't take people out of Afghanistan. When Trump says, yes, I want to do this, he comes back, Trump will say, we're going to take the troops out of Syria. And John Bolton says, whoa, 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 we're not taking them out. And Trump comes back the next day and says, well, yeah, we're taking our troops out of Syria. So these things that at first glance seem like they're a terrible idea, in the end, have all worked out well. When he shot missiles into Syria, I thought Alex Jones got a little upset about that too, and actually, I remember watching him get all red-faced, you can't be sending those missiles into Syria. Yeah, I can't do Alex Jones. Anyway, he was upset, and it looked like an act, actually, but it was fun to watch. But I was upset. I was genuinely upset, not because Alex Jones was, but because I don't want to be blowing anybody up. Now, did we end up in full-scale war in Syria? No. And are we pulling out? Apparently, that's what it looks like. And, they said he was going to do terrible in North Korea. Well, it sounds like he's denuclearizing. They said you can't end the Iran deal. And it looks like that's going to work out to our benefit. Iran is the most oppressive and most oppressive regime in the Middle East, at least in terms of where their country once was to where it is now. And from what I understand, there's ruminations among the people. They're not enjoying the way that their leadership is controlling the country, and they're a giant sponsor of terrorism in the Middle East, and Trump's not okay with that. And I like that. And I like that sort of quality in a president. If you sponsor terrorism, now I'm not a big fan of you. The Saudi regime looks like it's reformed. They seem to be doing better things. And so Trump says, all right, we'll come to the table with you. I said, one big ball of thread, and you can't pull at one spot without it being attached to another, and eventually the whole thing unravels, and hopefully we see Hillary Clinton in jail along with Obama and Bill and everybody else. Go down the laundry list of people in the FBI and the DOJ and the State Department. Loretta Lynch meeting with Bill Clinton on the infamous tarmac meeting, but they just talked about their grandchildren. They weren't plotting anything. They weren't scheming anything. He wasn't offering her a Supreme Court position if they disregarded Hillary's email investigation or anything like that. This is what I'm saying, though. It's all connected, and it's all very confusing to try and sort it out in your head. I'm sure I'm not doing a great job of it either, but you can pull from all these different sources, and everybody's got a little bit different view of it, a little different angle. I'm just some guy in a bedroom talking to you over the internet, but my view of it is different than somebody else's view, because we've all seen these little bits and pieces. It's all compartmentalized. This actor was moving over here. If you listen to Dan Bongino, you don't get the whole story. Or if you listen, he's just focused in on the Spygate stuff, but you got to go to some of the alternative sources on the internet to get the Uranium One stuff, or Zero Hedge is good, or Gateway Pundit is good, and they've all got a little different view. Sarah Carter is good. Brian Ross is good. Brian Cates is good. And they've all got a slightly different perspective on this. And if you read them all, you can begin to make a full picture, but it's sort of like looking at a flattened model of the Earth and not having the concept of a globe in your head. All right, you're like, this is a little. I'll get you a picture here. It's if you were to look at something like this, and obviously we don't have full screen here, but if you look at a projection of the Earth, all right, maybe that's accurate, but does it look like, if you folded it all up, then it would be a globe? Well, not really if you have no concept of a globe, okay? We have no concept of how evil these people are. We have no concept of how deep their machinations go within the system. We have no concept of how many strings they can pull and who they've got leverage over, and the different avenues in which they have to disseminate information, real or false. And we're starting to learn. We're starting to learn via some of these articles. The Epoch Times is great. Brian Cates is drawing strike on Twitter, and they're along with Bongino. I mean, if you listen closely, these guys have it, but it is a confusing tale. It's hard. to put your finger on it. But eventually, I do believe these people are going to pay for their actions, and it's absolutely brilliant. It couldn't be any better. I wouldn't want to live in a happier time. This is great. And interesting, fun to watch, fun to keep your eye on. So keep doing that, everybody. Keep your eye on this, care about this, and tell the people that you know about it. That's why I started this channel, so that I could do my little part in spreading the word. If you like what you heard, please like the video. Please press the subscribe button and comment on the video too. That'd be wonderful. All this stuff helps out in the algorithm as we're just getting started here. It's a long slog, and maybe I won't ever get more than a couple hundred views on a video, but it'll be worth it for reaching those couple hundred people and telling them exactly what's going on. And eventually, we're all going to know anyway. And I hope the whole story comes to light. Even if the people go to jail, I don't just want it to end up that way. I want everybody to know, like, the truth of what happened, so it doesn't happen again. That would be great. Like I said, please like the video, please subscribe to the channel, and until next time, that's honestly what I think.